you do without me? I'm a walking comedy act.
I don't know what I would do without you, Davey. I wouldn't be
Probably
doing
be on
this
time.
podcast.
Probably be on time.
That's okay. I'm used to people being fashionably late to things.
Is this one of those things where I should be like, yeah, me too, or one of those things where I should be like, I'm sorry, I will change?
No, because it happens. Like, you can't control the time. You know what I mean? So, who gives a crap?
Who gives a hoot?
Who gives a hoot? An owl probably gives a hoot.
At least one.
At least one. Did you see the Hooters Twitter screwed up?
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably on purpose, but like, um, still, come on.
Okay, is there like for some reason a lot of old diecasts that were like showing up on Plan B? Like there's a bunch of 2019s, 2013s, 2014s, like
I don't know, because you should
bunch of-
just purchase any and use that code JTN
I
at
know.
checkout.
I'm trying to get something new. I'm trying to do new.
Trying to do new.
Don't you know? Don't you
Don't
know about the new?
don't you know? Welcome to another episode of the Fake Racers Podcast, folks. On this episode, the boys talk about Pocono, SRX on their second dirt race, Nascar and iRacing's new exclusivity deal, as well as taking a look at this weekend. This episode was recorded on Tuesday, June the 29th, so Trackhouse news that just came out today when this is releasing wasn't out there, so I think we probably would have talked about that, but sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, get working on the lawn. This is the Fake Racers Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Fake Racers Podcast. Back to just me, Joe, and him,
Davey.
for another fun episode, talking
On
about Pocono. You know, tricky triangle stuff.
Pocono. Oh no.
Davey
Pocono.
obviously coming off of a crushing defeat Saturday night in the USORL.
God, good. Yep, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Davey's sad, so deal with it.
If you want to make Davey happy and commemorate, how many wins this year? 8?
Like 8 or 9 or
A
some
lot.
stupid nonsense like that.
A lot of wins. You can head on over to the JTN merch store and buy some Davey Hazard merch. So it evens things out, you know. Got posters, canvas prints, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more.
Indeed.
But I don't know. Are you hearing this? So my brother is dog sitting.
Yes, he is.
And that dog just barked again. So if it gets bad,
my God.
Can you hear it at all?
I haven't heard it.
Okay. Well, then my noise filters are doing their job.
Yeah, they are. Excuse me.
So we'll see. If there's a lot of dog barking, that's why. It's not Bristol, like his voice going up like mine. He's sitting right next to me right now, you know, tooling away.
No.
You know, working on the podcast.
Little dog.
Big things here in JTN down the pipeline. But oh my goodness. So Pocono happened this weekend. It was a double header. It was a fantastic weekend of racing, I would have to say. I know we'll make it quick though, because it's already it's been talked about a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Gotta go straight up front. I wasn't able to watch a lot of the races this weekend. You know, moving things and like stuff like that. But I was able to kind of keep up with the Cup races and the Xfinity race mostly, like through Twitter or whatever. They're both really, really good races, like outstanding races.
Truck race was decent too.
That's good. I'm glad the truck series is kind of turning around, kind of like.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but.
Oh. Well, Nashville was good.
That's very true.
Yeah, but race 1, obviously the finish is probably the kicker on that one. I don't. Did anything else really like? Well, I mean, I know it was pretty good racing, but like, you good?
Yeah. Fine? Sorry, I was working on some other stuff, trying to figure out noise and whatnot.
You're good.
Race 1 was good. Both races are good. and this is the argument that I had last week with Nashville, going into it, coming out of it. Some of these other tracks, unique racetracks can put on good racing. It doesn't matter what they are. That's why people like the road courses, because each road course is unique. Now, if you put too many, they become a little less unique, right? But unique racetracks produce unique racing, which inherently makes it better racing. It's that. That's what we saw this weekend. We saw fuel strategy, and if people want to say, well, people are out there, well, imagine if we didn't have stages. Guess what? We have stages. Deal with it. And look, we still had the fuel strategy. I mean, it's a lot about people don't understand what they want.
Mm-hmm.
What?
We've been through this.
We've been through this. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But, you know, we saw fuel mileage, and we saw, you know, we got a fuel mileage race both days. Saturday it didn't play out where the fuel mileage really meant anything because of cautions and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But Sunday, it did, right, with Kyle Busch. And you got the best of both worlds. You got one race that was spectacular strategy-wise. Bowman getting the lead on the restart, making Larson really run his car a lot harder than he probably should have, especially, and they've been talking about this on a lot of the shows, but in the tunnel, he was hitting that apron in the tunnel a lot. And that's probably what caused that left front to go down, or right front, whatever it was. I don't care. I laughed when it happened because I thought it was hilarious. Because it's old Kyle Larson, right? But we're not going to dive down that rabbit hole because apparently he's popular all of a sudden. Guy that wins gets popular. Who would have thought? But it's... people don't know what they want. What they want is unique racetracks. It's not necessarily a package. It's not necessarily a... because the easiest solution is to go to those unique places in a lot of sense. Because if we go to a certain package, we run it for 3 or 4 years, eventually the smart people will figure out the best way to use the package, and then it just gets stale, right? That's why you see the rulebook changing as much as it does, and people always, we don't like it changing. Well, if it changes more, teams have to adapt, and if teams have to adapt, that's something you get in a lot of other sports too. Like right now, the big thing in football. Football is, forever ground and pound. You run the ball, you play sound defense. Then it's starting to transition now to be very offensive centric. Spread the guys wide all the way across the field. One guy's going to run all the way to the end zone. Another guy's going to run and route across the field. He's going to run from one sideline to the other. I've lost Davey, of course. I hope I still have you at home, though. But it's getting into speed game. Motorsports is hard to do that because teams don't want to spend new money on new technologies, right? That's the whole point of next gen. I don't have to buy new cars every 2 years, every year. Build new cars, whatever. But without teams having to do that to the technology, eventually the technology catches up, and we figured out the best way to do everything. You look back at the composite bodies with Xfinity at Daytona when they first debuted on the super speedways. They already had it figured out that this is the best way to run it. So they had to do stuff to the rules to change it to make it better. But if you go to unique racetracks where the same principles can't apply across the broad spectrum, you don't have that problem. And it's not about going to more short tracks. That whole argument, we'll just go to more short tracks. We only go to 3 short tracks right now. Richmond, Martinsville, and Bristol. Right? Mm-hmm. We only go to 3 short tracks. If we had a 4th, a 5th, probably okay still. You had Nashville. I don't know what a 5th would be. I have no idea what short track could hold what short track in the Southeast could be that 5th race.
Well, maybe not Southeast, but Auto Club is gonna...
Oh, that's right. Well, there you go. There's 5 short tracks. But if you do this swing so much, like NASCAR did in the early 2000s with the mile and a half, late 90s, early 2000s, with the mile and a halves, teams are eventually going to say, okay, we got to spend all of our budget on that because that's the most important. A track like Homestead holds its uniqueness because it's not like any other mile and a half with the way the banking is.
Yep.
Michigan, forever until they repaved it, was unique because it was 2 mile and it has a little bit more banking than Auto Club. Auto Club's a little flatter. So those tracks are, even though they're sister tracks, they're unique. But then you have, the Atlanta, Texas, Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Those are the same racetrack, just in a different place. Kentucky, Chicagoland, Kansas. Those are the same racetracks, just in different places. Oh, Las Vegas is in there too.
Vegas, yeah, I was gonna say Vegas.
So you have this weird issue. Phoenix is a unique racetrack, but now with Nashville, I feel like those two and New Hampshire, those ones are all really close. Richmond in a lot of senses too. But it's about going to these unique racetracks, and you have to applaud NASCAR for continuing to go to Pocono, and for giving them this opportunity to be the only doubleheader.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I was really excited. Oh, maybe Michigan will get a doubleheader because I knew we were losing one of those race weekends. You know what I mean? Just with the way everything was shaking out.
Mm.
But it's about going to unique racetracks.
Yeah, and going back to that, that is a credit to NASCAR for sticking with Pocono, who's I think has gotten dealt a really bad hand with, like, very, like, everyone knows the whole, like, the negative connotations with Pocono with IndyCar now. Like, I don't even think a lot of that was necessarily Pocono's fault, and I'll fall on this to the day that I die, that Pocono is not always the issue when it comes to those accidents. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think we need to keep going. I think Pocono is a perfect racetrack. Has it always put on the best racing? No, not always, but, like, we do need the variety. Like, the second we go to some 1.5-mile track that looks like any one of the 2 to 3 like 1.5-mile tracks that we already kind of 1.5-mile tracks that we already have, like the style, people are going to complain about it. So I cannot applaud NASCAR enough for sticking with Pocono. Like, people have been in NASCAR's ear. People have been yelling about not wanting to go to Pocono for, like, at least 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. Oh, it rains too much. Oh, we got to shorten the races. Oh, those races are still boring. Get them out of Pocono. It always rains anyway. Like, it's I am sick of it. I was sick of it like 5 years ago.
Right.
Like, we have to preserve the fact that we go to Pocono. It's a special racetrack. I feel the same way about Dover. Everyone hates Dover. Dover doesn't put on good races. Jimmy Johnson wanted Dover too much. It is a totally unique racetrack, concrete surface, 1 mile, high banked all the way around. It is a absolute just monster, and I don't mean that pun. Didn't intend that pun, but it is a monster of a racetrack. There's a reason it has the name. There's a reason they gave it that name. Like, Dover, Phoenix. I still think Phoenix is kind of unique. I don't like the start finish line thing that they did, but neither here nor there. Now it has the pressure of being a championship race, and it's got to hold up to what Homestead was, which it never will, because Homestead is a really good racetrack. It's the only track on the schedule where, when you're going through the center, the baking still increases before you get to the exit. We have to preserve the fact that we go to these cool racetracks. We have to, like, appreciate that. I think we have to appreciate that. I don't care how bad the racing is. We have to appreciate it in some way, in some capacity, and we can't let ourselves get upset and get angry that there hasn't been a good race there in 2 years, because guess what? There hasn't been a good race at a lot of these tracks in 2 years. So we're gonna have to work. We're gonna have to figure it out, and we're gonna have to deal with it, and we're gonna have to, I just really want us to appreciate the fact that we actually go to pretty cool racetracks that I would kill to drive on. Like, we are so lucky. We are so lucky, Joe, that Darlington puts on good races.
Yep.
Because if Darlington didn't put on good races, it would be on the chopping block. Oh, it's old. Oh, it's boring.
Middle of nowhere.
Thank goodness. In the middle of nowhere. Thank you. Like, thank goodness Darlington puts on good races. Like, people just get so reactionary about stuff like that. Anyway.
It'd be the same thing with Martinsville, right?
Yep.
New Hampshire.
Bristol is actually already getting some of that. Like,
yep. which is
you know.
crazy.
Which
Because
like I know I've been a vocal like, and the only reason I have been vocal about Bristol in the past is because I like the dirt. I thought the dirt was cool, but like, whatever is what it is. Like I don't think we should lose. Like if the dirt doesn't work, we should not go to Bristol twice.
right.
Like okay, whatever. Dirt didn't work 2 years in a row. Keep them at Bristol at least. Like I would definitely still say that. You know.
Mhm. No, and that's exactly it, right? We made this move. We gave one of New Hampshire's races away. New Hampshire is a unique racetrack, and because people said they didn't like the racing, because guess what? One of its races opened up the chase forever. So guess what teams do in the first race of a 10 race championship? They run a little conservative. Um there are so many things that they've done wrong. Going to Las Vegas twice a year. Las Vegas used to be so good and heralded as this great racetrack, and it's in Vegas, and it's just a unique setting and whatnot.
Mm.
It hasn't been the best of racing. I don't, I think the Vegas race this year is the highest in Jeff Gluck's poll, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that is a
Um,
bad.
that is
That's
a
a
very
bad indicator.
reactionary to who won the race, but
Mm.
it's I don't know. It's just there's so much that people, when we look at this Pocono weekend, I'm just so happy that it was a good weekend of racing, because if it was a stink show, you'd hear next year, well, let's not do a doubleheader at Pocono. They only need the one cup race. They'll still
Yeah.
get their weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And good on NASCAR too. Just one more thing about it. Good on NASCAR for not, it's Pocono's family owned. It's not owned by NASCAR or the Smith family. Good on NASCAR for letting a track that's like that, that's not directly tied to them, have an event like that, have the doubleheader, and be the only one. You know what I mean? Because they could have very easily said, okay, Michigan's the only doubleheader. What else? Homestead's a doubleheader. All these other tracks that they owned. They could have very well said, okay, those are the doubleheader ones. And they didn't. So, good on them. Phoenix is the doubleheader. Oh, God. That'd be awful. But,
Yeah. A little bit.
back to the races. Bowman, of course, won race 1 after Larson blew a tire going into turn 3 on the last lap. Ricky Allen was talking about how Larson was going to make history, and then his tire went down. I laughed. I don't know if I said that.
You did. I mean,
Maybe,
I thought it was kind of that's out like funny in an outrageous way.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
thing. It's really funny. And also, real quick, NBC. I don't know why they do this. I don't think this is actually Rick Allen's fault. NBC really loves to push like the narrative of sports and like tries to drive home that passion and emotion. And they're not Marty Smith,
Mhm.
so they need to stop doing that because it just gets in the way of the call, in my opinion.
Yep. And
But
they do that with everything too. They do that with hockey. They do that with football. Like that's their shtick.
like, like I really don't think it's Rick Allen's fault. Like,
Yep.
unless you're Marty Smith, don't try to do it because Marty Smith is the only person who can do that like tastefully. And
Thank
you know.
God. Thank God ESPN kept him around to do all the college football stuff, because let me tell you, there are so many good stories that he does. But yeah, that's NBC's their broadcasts have been awesome. Everyone's like, well,
They have.
they just saw what Fox did bad and adjusted to it. If they did, that's great. If not, better for them. I still don't think Fox's broadcasts were as bad as everyone said. It had its moments, and I'm sure NBC will have its moments too.
Yeah.
Recency bias and all, but yeah, but and then Kyle Busch obviously won Sunday, fuel mileage race. No first, second, or third gear. Car was stuck in fourth, no clutch. They were really smart too. They like waited to let him leave pit road on the one to go, so that way he was up to speed by the time he caught up to the back of the pack. So that was a big brain move there, and he had to drive his way through traffic and stuff. It's not like everyone was just dropping like flies on fuel mileage either.
No. Yeah. I noticed that because I was I was I was able to watch bits and pieces as well, and I remember like tuning in like 10 to go. me tuning in at 10 to go told me nothing about how that race finished. Like,
Right.
it was totally different. There was absolutely no correlation. When I came back and I was able to see the finish, I was like, what happened? Like, I knew it was going to be fuel mileage, but it was just totally different.
Yeah. 2311 got their first top 5 with Bubba Wallace, so that was good. People still hate on the guy. Hate on him if you want. Just make sure you're hating on him for a good reason.
Yeah.
That's all. I'll leave that one. But
A lot of people aren't. Bark, 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 bark.
but yeah, it was a good week of racing at Pocono. Glad that, like I said, glad they get the doubleheader. Glad we still go to a very unique racetrack and the whatnot. Did you watch SRX?
I was again kind of Twitter warrioring it. I know, and it was it. I mean, I heard it was kind of similar, and it seemed like it was kind of similar to the last dirt race.
Yeah.
Decent enough racing. The track kind of didn't seem like it was prepared quite as crappily.
It was definitely a lot better because you actually had a top lane and
Yeah.
It felt like Tony was toying with them all. He obviously won. It kind of felt like he was in promoter mode trying to make the show good at times.
Yeah.
Which,
Which
power to him. But
excuse me.
I don't know. Every week I kind of get like lower and lower on it because it's not the cool new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think opening with well, not opening, but like I think having 2 dirt races in a row at the beginning of the season was a really bad idea.
Mm.
I think that was kind of stale, in my opinion, because like dirt's a very like specific discipline, right? You're not gonna really have any guys that like come out and really shine on dirt that haven't done like run on dirt before. Whereas
I raised you Michael Waltrip, but
I mean, you raised Michael Waltrip, but he was still an oval driver, and
that's true.
Drove stock cars his whole entire life.
How about Ernie Francis Jr.?
Ernie Francis Jr. That I'll give you that one, but he's driving really high-powered Trans Am cars, which I guarantee you, like, gets them prepared for the slidey slides. So, I mean, neither here nor there. I really think they should have had a little more diversity at the beginning. Like, I feel like I don't know. I just feel like 2 dirt races. Like when I heard they were doing dirt again, I was like, oh, I want to see these things back on asphalt. Like Stafford was awesome, but whatever. I think IRP is going to be good. IRP is a good racetrack. Joe, I miss IRP so much.
Hey, unique racetrack.
Oh, I miss IRP. Good Lord. I miss it. I miss running it. I miss when leagues I was in ran IRP.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. What a racetrack. What a blast.
Unique it's so good.
Agreed. Anyway. They're going IRP. We'll get to that later, but we'll talk about it.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it just felt stale. It actually got the best viewership out of all of them. I don't know what the lead-in was, because the lead-in's very important, especially when you're on a major network like a CBS, a Fox, an NBC. Having a good lead-in is very important because it keeps people around. So I don't recall what it was. I was watching Tornado Watch and Severe Weather Alerts, so I kind of missed the first heat too. But yeah, I mean, I just, like you said, I think it felt stale just because it was second dirt race in a row. They're big, heavy cars, not necessarily made for dirt. They can say Ray Evernham built them for dirt all they want. They're built for the asphalt oval first because there's 4 of those compared to the 2. Yeah,
they're not quite nimble enough, and I think that's what kind of makes it seem. That's what made it seem a little dull 2 weeks in a row. Is like, okay, yeah, watching these cars bumble around on a dirt track is cool for like once and like for a while, but 2 times in a row, it's like, all right, let's let these things kind of rip again, please.
Yeah,
I feel like that's where, like, I feel like I'm starting to realize that I'm not a huge fan of dirt racing, but.
Well, you're just not a fan of the dirt racing you've watched, because cup cars and trucks and SRX cars are a lot different than World of Outlaws, and
No, you're right. You're right.
so
That's a fair point. I probably should have specified, but yes.
yeah. No, I get what you're saying though. I wanted to make sure everyone at home got,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can be mad at me for not liking dirt. Dirt's for farming, so.
Not gonna say anything. Yeah. Again, stale. But it's not to say that it wasn't a good show, because it still was a good show. It's still a good format. You got Paul Tracy still being an idiot.
Oh my God, I know all about that. Paul Tracy, good lord, get yourself together. Heavens to Betsy.
Hinchcliffe was awesome in the booth.
I knew he would be. James Hinchcliffe has a career in motorsports for the rest of his life. Whether he's a driver, announcer, anything he wants to be, he will be that. I mean, the guy is like the definition of charisma, the definition of talented. Just like put him anywhere at a racetrack, and he'll shine doing that.
Yeah.
Leave
him up there, please.
I knew he was gonna be fantastic. I knew he was gonna be fantastic in the booth. I especially alongside Alan Bestwick. And like, I think the cool thing about that, like in my opinion, is James Hinchcliffe is as much of like a racing nerd and a racing fan as everyone else. He probably couldn't believe that he was gonna share a booth with Alan Bestwick. Like, he probably was so excited about that, and so that made it. I like that as well. I thought that was also like, I could kind of like.
You could feel it.
I could feel the secondhand excitement that he got. Like, yeah, it's just really cool.
Assume Danica's going to be back in the booth this weekend, unless they have another person, because obviously IndyCar's at Mid Ohio and Hinch is full time in IndyCar. Yeah, but I guess that takes it to SRX, Davey. You know what I like doing? I like watching SRX and all, but you know what I really like doing?
What's that?
Collecting diecast cars.
Do you?
I do.
Wow.
I don't know if you could tell. You can't see my desk, but there's cars all over the place.
You collect diecast cars?
Wait. I do. This is Casey Kane's Michigan win from 06.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Garage sale. It's the Elite. It's like missing a spoiler brace.
Oh, well, that's a dang shame.
But $5 at a garage sale.
Hey,
and it's an Elite, so I mean,
very nice.
If it's just for me, but of course, if you want new diecast or maybe a couple-year-old diecast, maybe not all the way back to 2006, check out our friends at Plan B Sales on CircleBdiecast.com, linked in the description below. Make sure you use code JTN at checkout for free shipping on your order of $20 or more. This, of course, our segment where we talk about our picks for the week from our friends at Circle B Diecast. Davey,
me?
What'd you pick out this week?
I want you to go ahead and use code JTN and cop yourself Kyle Busch's 2021, the M&M Minis Pocono Race Win Diecast in 1/24 scale. $70. That'll get you the free shipping right off the bat. You don't got to order anything else. You only get charged when it ships. So you have time, but guess what? You won't get charged for shipping when you do get charged, which is good. Another cool fact: this car only comes with 4th gear. So, it doesn't come with the other 3. It's a deal. It's a deal. You can't get that anywhere else but at Circle B and with us using code JTN.
My pick for this week is Alex Bowman's Pocono 1 Race Win t-shirt. You thought I was going to say the diecast. You thought I was going to say the diecast. You did. Okay, whatever.
No, I didn't.
But you can also get the Kyle Busch Race Win t-shirt as well from our friends at Circle B Diecast. Again, they have more than just diecast t-shirts, hats, and more. So go check those options out. I'm going to get an Alex Bowman car. I think I'll probably get the Richmond one just because it's cheaper than like the Pocono one will be. Because that one I think is only going to be like 60 or 65, where the new ones, they bumped up the price to 70. We won't get into that. But
yeah, I went ahead and I did for my bad word that I said totally on accident last week. I went ahead and I ordered my Ryan Preece
Nashville Win
diecast. Can't wait.
Hopefully it gets made.
Okay, don't make me cry. Don't make me cry.
We haven't set those rules. What if the cars don't get made? Do you have to get a different one, or does it just like you get lucky? that you don't have to pay for them. I mean, because you picked one you liked, but
Yeah. I think the disappointment with this one means I can let it go. But like if the Daniel Suarez
it's already
one's
made
getting
it. Yeah.
produced, that one's doing it. But like if one I do that's like, all right, screw it, I'll get Ricky Stenhouse's ugly JTG car number 32, like, whatever scheme that is, and it's like, oh, look at that, didn't get made. It's like, all right, I'll buy another one because that's lame.
Okay. But again, use that code JTN at checkout. You help support us when you use that code, and you also get free shipping on your order. Both those products we mentioned, you'll get free shipping because they're both over $20. Big announcement today from the esports iRacing world.
Spicy.
We are fake racers here after all. NASCAR iRacing today kind of announced that iRacing has become the official simulation game. Or
official simulation partner.
There you go. For NASCAR. I think I know what your opinion is, so I'm gonna start with mine.
Okay.
The question posed, is it a good or bad thing? You're gonna say it's good, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say it's bad. And that's not necessarily from a trying to just be Jekyll and Hyde. But I worry that we go this route with iRacing. iRacing is a very niche, probably isn't the right word, but it's definitely got a cost barrier associated with it. That a traditional $60 every year game wouldn't have. You figure if your subscription for the year is $12 a month, anywhere from $12 a month, $104 for a year, whatever that works out to. All those different packages. Davey is not happy right now.
No, I'm listening intently.
I know
if as it may.
The cost argument's always is always the first one when people talk about iRacing. That's why a lot of people still use NR, and we still have the broadcast of races because iRacing is expensive for a lot of people. So you have that cost barrier associated with it. There's a cost to enter. Issue number 2, if we say, and this goes with a lot of different sports leagues with their video games, like the NFL has had this issue with EA. Once we say that someone's the official partner, if we want to do anything outside of that, now I don't know what the iRacing deal is. I'm assuming that you can still make an arcade NASCAR game. But once we say you're the official partner, no one else can do anything, and then there's no competition in the market. At least right now, you kind of had some competition from 704 Motorsports Games, whatever they are now. Still waiting for them to announce their game, and I have a feeling they haven't announced their game because they were waiting for this announcement. But I digress. You lose out on some of those not casual in the sense of, oh, they're gonna flip through the channels on Sunday, but casual in the sense that they don't really care about the engineering side. They don't care about, the Rick Ware Racings of the world, and they care about their guy. They're a Kyle Larson fan, or they were a Jimmy Johnson fan, a Dale Jr. fan, Chase Elliott fan. They're they're a very base level fan, but they're not to the point where you'd say, oh, they're casual fans. So I worry that you lose out on that group, because that group isn't gonna go and get iRacing. You gotta get a wheel. Is the other thing with iRacing. People, you can do it on a gamepad. I'm sure you can do it with a keyboard. You shouldn't, but you can. Cost is always the big thing with me anytime we talk about stuff like this. So, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'll be a problem. I think iRacing has existed. Excuse me, maybe not as a official XYZ of NASCAR, but like I feel like it's existed, next to these NASCAR games rather peacefully the last however many years, and I don't think it's going to take away from the fact that NASCAR needs a flagship title, and it's going to get one. That's going to get one. They're going to try and get one every year, like we've been doing. It may, whether those games are good or not, that's not really the question. But I just don't see it becoming an issue because we've already had a harmonious relationship already. So I don't see it changing. I could be wrong. Maybe this does close a door. I know they're looking at like different engines and stuff for the new game. The team that kind of helped make R Factor 2 is kind of a little bit in charge of the new NASCAR game, ISI, whatever that is. Like, I know there's a little bit of that going on. I don't know if that's going to have any effect because I feel like R Factor 2 is almost a direct competitor to iRacing. That's starting to dive into more sim-related stuff. But they're not making R Factor 2 NASCAR. They're making a NASCAR game,
Right.
is the point. So, you know, it will. I mean, I guess that's something that remains to be seen, and we'll probably figure out more in the coming weeks. But I think good or bad thing, I still think it's a good thing because the deal we have this point. It's like they're going to be able to test stuff in the sim before making them a real thing. Big deal. That's a big deal. That's cool. First of all, I think that's amazing, and like Dave Kamer and the iRacing team are probably like giddy at the chance to do this, like chomping at the bit to do this.
Selling
It's
content before you actually see it.
correct. I think this is a this is the Fake Racers podcast, so we're gonna dive into the sim stuff a little bit. I think this is actually like better for NASCAR than it is for iRacing, because iRacing still has a lot of glaring issues that they have by not focusing on the back end of their service, or not focusing on the less glamorous parts of the service, rather than churning out new content, new tire models. I mean, new tire models maybe are also backbone of the content, but like they're churning out new tire models because there's new cars that suck on the tire model because the tire model sucks. So, you know, I think this is. I don't think this is a good thing for iRacing. I think iRacing needs to take a step back from new content for a little bit. Me and Tommy, friend of the show, JTN friend, JTN guy, we both agree. We've talked about this for years that iRacing needs to not try to make any new content for a year, not sell any new content for a year. They need to focus on the backbone of the service. They need to focus on the tire model. They need to focus on their service not crashing 16 million times every time there's a big event, which happens every single time there is a big event. 24 Hours of Daytona, 24 Hours of Le Mans, Indy 500, Daytona 500. Some of those aren't even big deals. The Daytona 500 and Indy 500 are like not real. They are not the events that the 24-hour events are, and they crash just as much in those events. So they need to work on themselves a little bit more, and I worry about this becoming a thing where it's like, try out the new racetrack, try out the new track before it comes Auto Club short track, and it's like, okay, yeah, but we slid the tires like through half a corner, and currently my right rear is at 600 degrees. Can I get some help? Help, please! We really don't need that. I you know. It's good for NASCAR, I believe. Yes, I agree. Good for NASCAR. Great for NASCAR. I think NASCAR is going to utilize it well. I think the direction NASCAR is going in, they're hopefully, knock on wood, not going to make any stupid decisions with it or make any hasty decisions. We all know that's a fine line that
It's hard for
NASCAR
them sometimes.
doesn't tend to walk very well. They usually just tip right over and fall off the deep end. But I mean, it's at least cool, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
It's pretty cool.
Everything I said isn't to discount like being able to test things in sim. iRacing though sometimes lacks in some of the accuracy. So if they are going to benefit it'll probably be a benefit to have actual drivers, hopefully, and they take their constructive criticism, right? There was the big thing about the IndyCar drivers.
Oh my god.
Not liking things, and then all of a sudden they weren't allowed to say anything negative about iRacing.
You want to know what made me really mad about that? Is you had people who are iRacing fans who trashed IndyCar drivers over that. I mean, said, "Oh, well, just because they're not in the service, they don't understand it. That's just how the cars are."
That's not
trashed IndyCar drivers for saying, "Oh, these cars spin out way too easily. You can't control a slide at all." And it's like how do you listen to IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden explain this to you? How do you listen to Connor Daly? How do you listen to James Hinchcliffe or Alexander Rossi say these things all consistent with each other? And then how are you going to say Nah, you're wrong. Nah, that's not how IndyCar drives. What? Oh my God!
You're given
Like
this golden
this was actually
opportunity.
like a big. Yes,
Yep.
yes. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, like drove me nuts last year, and that wasn't just iRacing. That was like people, like
Yeah,
fans.
no.
Like, oh my God,
It's
like how do you
it's
listen?
it's a product of the culture, right? That's what it is. I
Gosh.
mean, there's just it is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
people making their assumptions about how next gen's gonna race based off of 2 races with it, on Fox and people running it in game. They don't know how that car is gonna drive. You can't tell me that that sim is accurate with that car because everything we have learned about how iRacing does things is they take real world data and then put it onto the sim, not, oh, here's the sim, now let's see how it works in the real world. That's where I'm worried about with
Mhm,
trying some of these things because it feels like tracks. It's all, oh, the track's broken, the track's broken. Why is this track broken? Is
mhm.
it the car or is it the track? Like, and if we're gonna be testing new things for the car,
Yeah, iRacing also suffers a lot with like they shoot themselves in the foot. I don't know if I explained this on the podcast before, but like they try, and this is specifically with the tire model. I mean, like I've listened to the interviews. I don't know if there's any truth to it or if he was over exaggerating, but I've listened to like podcasts with Dave Kamer, right? And they talk about how much work they do to try and improve the tire model. Fair play, awesome, cool, love it, love to hear it, love to see it. And they're like, they're tearing apart tires, and they're studying the composition of the tires. I mean, like that's what people do with their desk at iRacing is they're literally tearing apart tires, looking at the layers, looking at what's under them, and that's cool. That's great that you want to have it right and you want it to be right, like, and also be right. But the simulation is an experience enjoyed by the user. So sacrifice being right for a little bit and having it right in the technical sense and make it feel right.
right,
Like take a driver's feedback. Yes, the tire's not going to be built exactly like the damn tire that's in real life, but we're not always going to get that.
right.
That's fine. That's fine. It's the same. It's like what they did with their freaking. They try to have this track thing work, right? Like where rubber builds into the grooves. First of all, our Factor 2's had that right since it came out. So I don't know what the problem is, but they're
Dynamic
trying to have this. They're
racetracks.
trying to have this dynamic racetrack BS nonsense, and it's like, oh, it's not working. Oh, ooh, it's not working. And so you know what they did, and it made it. People were ecstatic, and it made it a million times better. Guess what they did? They added grip lines, like NR tracks. They added grip lines.
It's a sim.
We can just do that from the start, and we can try and make it right later. Like, why are we trying to overcomplicate this for the sake of realism?
Right,
When really we should just make it feel right first and then work on that.
right.
Because you're like I would have paid. I have been a subscriber to iRacing since 2012. I would have been a faithful subscriber of 9 years at this point if everything felt good and I enjoyed it. But guess what? I didn't, and I'm paying a premium for a service that refuses to look at its negative aspects in the eyes and say, you know what, we just have to change you. We just have to make it feel right. And instead they try and fix this problem that they've had since the sim came out in 2008. Like, I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. Make the sim feel right. I don't care that the tire isn't constructed exactly the way it's constructed in real life.
Hmm.
There's not an undercarcass under the tire, and I don't care. I don't care.
I
I don't
hope that
care.
was
I
an
don't care.
over exaggeration, because let me tell you,
I
if there's someone sitting at a desk cutting a tire open when they could just as well get pictures and schematics of a
it
tire,
he
like,
sounded serious as a heart attack when he talked about it. Like that there is a like that is what he does. That is his job is trying he leads tire model stuff. That is what he does is he tears apart tires and he looks at the construction of them.
I don't understand that because I feel like you can get the same information from a schematic from an engineering drawing. You can get the same information without having to
I
cut it up, and then it leaves it up for interpretation. That is the issue, because not every tire is produced the same. So if I'm looking at this tire and then it gets thrown away and I have to get another one that's the same tire, it's not the same. Right? There's discrepancies in these things too. Like they're
Weird.
they're
Weird. That's so
uncontrollable. So like
That's
you
so
said,
weird.
focus on making it feel good, and then you kind of work you work your way, because then you have at least a baseline that you have to work to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times when we set these goals on projects, at the start, your goals are way off screen. They're way up here. My hand is almost touching the ceiling. That's how high. When in actuality, you're probably only going to get to maybe here. Maybe here if you're lucky. Probably like right here. But you're shooting for up here. And it just seems like they continue to try to shoot for way up there when they need to set their goals here. And then once we're here, now we go up. And we build. And we build. So while I'm down here and I'm shooting way up over those landmarks, what am I accomplishing? And I think that's your argument, is that it's about taking baby steps, not about big leaps and gains overnight, which it seems like maybe that's how they're trying to focus their things.
Yeah.
Because isn't it dynamic tracks that kind of broke the tire? Isn't that what people...
Joe,
made it really bad. Really
Joe, this
bad.
was like a year or so ago, and it's still a meme. The dynamic track surface stuff. So I mean, yeah, probably. It's just a mess. Anyway, that was our biggest sim racing discussion I think we've had on the podcast yet. One of them.
Crazy.
Man, look at us.
Yeah, I got iRacing last year. I don't even know how many races I logged. Probably not even 50. And just it wasn't fun. So why am I gonna take time doing it?
Yeah, and even now, like they messed up the Indy cards, where the Indy car is like undrivably loose, and like the tires are so skittish. Like those cars don't drive like that. I'm sorry, they just don't. You know, like every single time I drive on iRacing, I swear to God, the car is like not literally, because yes, it is literally on top of the race, but I feel like the car is just always on top of the racetrack. The car feels like it's light as a feather. Like it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel.
It's got more downforce than that.
Yeah, and like the physics aren't quite as not the physics necessarily aren't quite as good, but like when I drive on R Factor 2, every car feels like it has weight. Like feels like there is a car behind me. It feels like there's like something that I am driving something. There is something in my wheel that is telling me that this is a racing vehicle. It is heavy. And it is going to take this racetrack, and it's going to drive here, and when you get that curb, it's gonna launch, and you're gonna feel it. Whereas like in iRacing, it's just like, kind of mushy.
Here I am.
You hit the curb, the car's gonna fly. You know, that kind of thing.
To the moon. But yeah, little changes. Let's work. We don't need to lose 30 pounds overnight, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It would be nice, but we don't need to do it. But, so yeah, I mean, that's it. It's about taking those chances. It's about, they need to be willing to listen to drivers. I think Dale Jr. becoming a bigwig over there hopefully helps with that. You know, that's what you gotta hope for. But you have to listen, especially when you have guys that have done it in real life, and if you're trying to make it accurate to real life, why would you? I never understood that. Yeah.
I agree with you with the Dale thing. I think that's a big deal. He was apparently a huge factor in the 1987 cars getting changed to be a little more drivable. But, you know, that's a very typical sim racer thing to kind of thing. Is like, oh, well, these cars are hard to drive. That means they're realistic, which is just not the case.
No.
It's not the case.
But yeah, you got to take it. You got to take input. You don't have to create all this propaganda. You don't have to make like a cult of personality around the sim. You know what I mean? You don't have to make it look like it's something that that can't be defeated. You don't have to make it godlike. Because it's not, and it shouldn't be. It should never be like that. The product should never outweigh what the consumer wants.
Right.
For the sake, you should never say, okay, I'm not going to change my product because X, Y, and Z when I'm being told to change it. And that's what's frustrating. Because you look at NR, and NR is the base for iRacing, and like you said, they added grip lines to the tracks, and that's technology they've had since they were Papyrus. Like, it's Whatever.
And you know, obviously this isn't linear, but like if they had maybe done that at first and then kind of maybe tried to do grip, like, you know, tried to do dynamic track surface, it wouldn't like it's not like a shock. It's like it's embarrassing in 2021 to go back to, you know, NR grip lines
What are we
at Auto
doing?
Club.
We already had those issues in NR with gripped up tracks. We don't need it in iRacing too.
Heavens to Betsy.
That's a different argument for a different day. Just like this weekend. This weekend's 4th of July. Isn't that crazy?
I don't want this year's going too fast.
It's zooming by. NASCAR is at Road America this weekend. Xfinity and Cup. We'll get to the other two series later that we like to talk about here. But Road America picks. It's first time the Cup Series is there, obviously. I think it's hard not to pick. You know, I think one of us will take Cindric, one of us would take Allmendinger in the Xfinity race, right? So let's not either of us. Those two are off the table.
Okay.
Let's say that.
All right, I can do that.
So go ahead, make your pick.
Andy Lally.
Yeah, I was gonna take him off the table too, but yeah.
Can't do that to me.
I'm going to take Justin Haley because he needs to get his stuff turned around, and he has become a better and better road course racer every time he's on a road course since AJ's been there. So,
Silly.
trying to think, Kevin Harvick's in the race, Kyle Busch is in the race, Ty Gibbs, you know, those guys will all be good too. It's not like, but we try to make our picks fun and not pick the obvious choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Cup Series, who you got?
Ryan Eversley.
All right. Good pick. What realistic expectations, though, for a Rick Ware car? 25?
With Ryan Eversley in it, top 25 would be fantastic. I think Ryan Eversley's got it in him.
Okay.
Really talented sports car driver. If you don't know who Ryan Eversley is, really talented sports car driver. You know, American, cool guy.
Give me a pick for the win, host.
Though. Pick for the win. I will say I figured you wouldn't let me cop out on that, but I'm gonna go AJ Allmendinger.
Hey.
For the Cup Series.
I know. I believe he got a top 5 at Coda, and then obviously they didn't run Sonoma. Neither did Cindric. Cindric's in this race. Not going to pick him because a 4th Penske car, but maybe it'll be the 3rd Penske car since apparently Keselowski isn't allowed in team meetings or something. I don't know. I am gonna go with. You ready for this one?
Oh no.
Tyler Reddick.
Ooh, that's a spicy pick.
I picked him for Pocono 2 last week, but ran really good at Coda. RCR's program, they're getting, you know, if they're getting help from colleague with AJ, I feel like that's gonna help Reddick. I think Max Pappas is still a driver coach with them too, maybe. I'm not sure. Or at least maybe he's for Chevy or something, but I think Reddick's gotten better and better on the road course. Chase Briscoe's going to be good, hopefully he can get a top 10, because he really needs it at this point.
Yep. Michael McDowell will be quick.
Yep. Michael McDowell has a win here in Xfinity, and I think, might have been Mid-Ohio, I don't know. Who else would be, Chase, Larson, they'll be quick, but I'm not picking them because that's boring and lame.
Dang straight. Darn tootin'.
Darn tootin'. Can't wait for all the Michael McDowell stands on Twitter to be like, look, he's so good.
Michael McDowell is so good. Oh, wait to the chase spot. Quotations.
Look, he's still 17th in the points. That means he's deserving of his spot in the playoffs. When we've used a formula to determine the starting lineup literally every week, it's almost like the Hendrick cars. I didn't talk about this, but Pocono. Wow, the Hendrick cars didn't start out front, and then it was really hard for them to get to the lead. What? Wow. William Byron was the only one that had good speed on Sunday.
What?
It's like, SRX, like you said, is at IRP this weekend. Pick a winner.
You know, we're gonna shock the world. Ernie Francis Jr. is gonna. He's gonna write his name down. He's gonna punch his ticket to being a winner of SRX.
Getting a little closer to Tony Stewart in the points.
Yeah.
Because he's second, and he's second. He hasn't even cracked the 100-point mark, and Tony's at 125 or something. Um, Bobby Labonte, I think, will be good. I think he was showing
I
some
was
promise last
thinking,
weekend, and then, Paul Tracy again.
Bobby Labonte. Man,
I
yeah.
really want Willie T. Ribs to, not be 12th. That would be
I don't know, man.
nice.
He's out of shape, man. He
He's
needs to
got
get in
such a good
shape.
personality. It's like, oh my goodness.
He
Bill
would be
Elliott,
such a
too.
he would be such a good winner in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of like it would just
It'd
be
feel
entertaining.
good. Exactly. Michael
Yeah.
Waltrip would be the same way. Which, by the
No,
way, real quick, for Michael Waltrip talked about how this was for him trying to show people that he is accomplished and he is a talented race car driver.
makes me so sad.
If you didn't think Michael Waltrip was a talented race car driver, oh, he won 4 super speedway races. He also won an all-star race with the Wood brothers after transferring in through the Open in the 90s. So, there's that. 2 Daytona 500s, which, oh, he has a good car. Yeah, you still have to win the dang race.
Yeah.
And then Talladega wins. I hate it when people do that.
I agree with you. Michael Waltrip is nothing to just brush off. He's talented.
He didn't win a championship, so he's not a successful race car driver. Well, I guess Mark Martin isn't successful then. I hate people like that, man. Well, Casey Kane's an absolute bust.
Dude, Casey Kane was insane.
Huh?
I don't understand that.
Ryan Newman only had 1 good year.
I mean, to be fair, Ryan Newman,
and then those same people complain about the current system being so important about weights. It's oh my god. I don't know. I just hit myself in the face a bunch.
You did.
Hypocrite. Going to Mid-Ohio with IndyCar on Sunday, 12 p.m. on NBC. That leads into the Cup race at Road America at 2:30 or 3 or whatever it may be.
Woo!
IndyCar Road America. Penske's got to win a race eventually.
IndyCar Mid-Ohio.
Joseph Newgarden.
You said Road America.
Did I say it? I'm sorry. IndyCar Mid-Ohio.
You're dang
Joseph
right.
Newgarden.
You're sorry. This guy, I believe he won there in 2018 or some nonsense, right? Alexander Rossi. He is not happy at Andretti, but he's going to turn the season.
Is he not?
Turn a new leaf.
Is he not happy with him? Has he
certainly
said it?
He certainly doesn't seem happy. Have you listened to his podcast?
I have not gotten the chance. I know I need to. I was actually told. Hold on, real quick. Roger Nebelsick, if you're still listening to this, he told me that we have that same energy as Rossi and Hinch. So, thank you, Roger.
Dude.
Shout out, owner of the ASRA. So,
Mr. Nebelsick, I appreciate you.
Shout out.
That's awesome. I love that podcast.
I think that's what he said.
We need a quirky but also insulting third member.
I mean, I could do that.
Because they have their host, right? Like they have their host. Well, you don't know that, but they have their host, Tim.
I've listened to an episode, but not a newer one. So
you should.
It's
good. It's good.
I got new earbuds. So
they're funny guys. I love those guys, man.
But yeah, I think that's a good pick. Rossi's got it. God, he has had such a terrible last year and a half.
Yeah.
Whether it's bad luck, slow cars, and
yeah, man.
And you can tell it's wearing on him. Did you watch? I know that we're running. We've used a lot of time, but I don't really care at this point. Did you watch him and Daly on The Amazing Race on CBS?
I didn't get to, but I love when they talk about it because it's like it was like the genesis that got Alexander Rossi to help Condrey to find a new place because they were living together at the time. It's just always really funny when they talk about it.
But that was really good because they were one of the final 2 groups, and then they finished second. But that was the only reason I watched that season of the show because I just haven't really liked that show in a while. Yeah. Obviously they probably didn't have it last year because of the pandemic. But that does it for this week's episode, folks. Remember, if you want to help support us here on JTN, you can make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. If you're watching us, hello, there's a wave. If you're listening, make sure you follow the podcast on your podcast platform, whether that's Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, whatever. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, maybe. I don't know. Anchor is where we usually post the link that gives you that whole link tree of all your favorite podcast platforms. And then again, subscribe on YouTube. Like I said, like the video on YouTube, like the podcast on your podcast platform. If you want to help support us even more, you want to go that extra mile, that extra step. Let's start with the extra step. Head on over to our Twitter at Johto Network or Facebook again at Johto Network. Now, if you want to go the extra mile and help support us, head on over to the JTN merch store. It's linked in the video description here on YouTube. If you're listening to us, if you just search Johto Network, you'll be able to find the link in the video description on YouTube. There we have all kinds of great shirts. We have our JTN logo stuff. You've seen our Fake Racers podcast. If you're watching again on YouTube, you see it right down below us. Davey Hazard has some great merch, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Mikey Murata, Matthew Steelman, based off of the USORL Season 7. Can't thank those guys enough for a fantastic season. We also have Season 7 schedule shirts, even though I think the schedule ends up being wrong now because there were so many changes to it throughout. But go check it out. That one, I'm going to post that one. I'm going to take the price down on it and then probably get rid of it in about a month. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, definitely. I know Noah's probably listening. Definitely a good chance when he takes the price down for, if you guys want to snag one who didn't snag one, or if you want an extra one.
I'll make sure to post.
It's a really nice. It's a really cool. It's a really nice shirt. So I would recommend it.
All of our shirts are cool. We have our JTN race car merch too, based off Sean Whitehill's car. So a bunch of great options is all I'm trying to say here. So go check them all out. And we try to keep our prices low compared to a lot of others, just because it's you're helping support us, right? We can't thank you enough for doing that, because that's what usually helps pay for some of the improvements on my end, because since I do a lot of the stuff, maybe we'll get Davey a new mic eventually, like an actual microphone.
Yeah,
it's coming, Davey. It's coming. It's on its way. But when you guys do that, it's just that extra mile, and it really shows that when you do that stuff too, it shows that you appreciate us and what we do, and we appreciate that. Can't thank you enough for all your support. Davey, where can they help support you at specifically?
You can follow me on Twitter at Davey Hazard for more racing takes and to argue with me. You can follow me on Instagram at D7H5. And you can find me on Twitch at D7H5er. So long as I get my computer all figured out, now that I have Saturdays off again, I might start streaming a little more. Might do some Rocket League, maybe some sim racing stuff. We'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll keep in touch on that one. But thank you for listening and or watching. Joe's laughing at my podcast end. I don't know why he's laughing, and I don't at this point we're too deep into it to not do it this way. So I'd like to thank you all. We're gonna have like it's like a fireside chat here tonight. So
I like FDR. Did you? Okay, I guess you didn't know. During he had these little things called fireside chats on the radio.
No, I know.
Okay. Did I interrupt?
Thanks for listening. Good night.